Hey everpeoples, Colin Eldred-Cohen here. Well, it's night, and tomorrow is going to hopefully be my machinima day, so I'm nervous, and decided to blow off some steam through my first vlog. Yay-ish. Okay, and vlog is going to be on Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, which I just got back. Well, okay, no, that's a lie. I got back from it about 2-ish hours ago. Now, I'm going to admit I'm a Pirates of the Caribbean fan. I love the first one. It's one of my favorites. I don't know where it ranks. Second one, it was not so great. Third one, step up in my opinion. Everyone else seems to think it raped their grandmother or something. I don't get that. So, naturally, on Stranger Tides had a lot to kind of bring up. And it doesn't suck. Like, it wasn't a bad movie, but I have a hard time saying that it was a good movie. Or maybe I have a hard time saying it was a great movie. By the way, this is going to be pretty spoiler heavy, so if you guys intend to see the movie, stop the video now, go see it, pay your stuff, come back, and, see if you disagree with me or not. So, to start out, I mean, this is apparently based on the book that sort of inspired, the Pirates of the Caribbean verse. I may have gotten that wrong. I know the whole thing's based off the Disneyland ride, which I haven't been to since they've changed it, so, but that's not important. So, this one, again, based off of the book that inspired the Jack Sparrowness of Pirates of the Caribbean. And so, we find Jack Sparrow, once again, without the Black Pearl. This basically picks up from the end of the third movie, where, Barbossa made off with the Pearl, and they're both on a quest-ish to find the Fountain of Youth. So, basically, it actually opens up, of all places, with some Spanish people. Like, they find this guy, and he's holding a book, and, they think he's dead, but then he comes up and he, says a name, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. And they bring him back to, the Spanish king, and he's like, huh, this must mean that, wait a minute, I know that name. It's the man who, found the Fountain of Youth or something. Now, keep in mind, I might be getting some of this wrong, but I'll get to that in a bit. And so, Jack has apparently turned the title into an outrageous lie, because he is no longer in the Caribbean. He has found his merry way to London. I have no idea how he managed that, considering the last time we saw him, he was in a freaking rowboat. He's there, he's with Gibbs, and long story short, Jack kind of gets pulled in by the King of England. And I'll get to him in a bit. Oh Lord, I'll get to him. And Hector Barbossa, proud man that he is, and who now looks like he's, Barbossa is aging badly, I think, because I know he had, some pockmarks here or something like that, but now they just look, sickly yellow. I think he has scurvy, and I'll tell you something, though, I don't know if I noticed this before, I think Barbossa has jaundice, because they give him, a lot of facial close-ups, those eyes are freaking yellow, and I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Rush is good of health, but Barbossa, wow. Those are some, yellow eyes right there. Can't be healthy. But, back to the story. Barbossa has now been made a privateer for the English crown, and is sort of helping them find the Fountain of Youth. Now, I'm going to assume that a lot of you are familiar with the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so at this point you might be asking a question like, how? I'm pretty sure Barbossa is a famous pirate. You can't tell me they just overlooked his criminal record and said, oh, hey, guess what? We're gonna give you a ship and crew of our finest men. Okay, yeah, he's probably not as well known as Jack Sparrow, but he was Sparrow's first mate, before the movie. So he's probably got a few crimes under his belt. Crimes against the British crown, no less. Not to mention he's also the pirate lord of the Caspian Sea, which, by the way, I looked up. That's bullshit. Apart from a few rivers, the Caspian Sea is landlocked. I mean, if that's where your pirate domain is, I think you need to find a new reign of business, because, like, what would you do there? Hold on, let me check. It's like, yeah, here it is. It's like in the middle of Kazakhstan, Russia, and Iran, and a few other things. I don't know what those were like back then, but if that's your pirate territory, slim pickings. Seriously. But anyway, so what it goes up to is the Spanish, the British, who basically elected Barbossa as their as leading their search. Again, I'll get to the king in a bit. And Jack Sparrow, who I'll get to that later, but they're all in a race for the Fountain of Youth. Now, how's Jack Sparrow doing this without a ship? Well, turns out he ran into an old flame, played by Penelope Cruz, and basically she's the daughter of Edward Teach, who you all may know as Blackbeard. So, basically for the majority of the movie, Jack Sparrow is a captive of Blackbeard's. You'll have to see it to get into that, but point being, Pirate Lady, I'm just gonna call her Penelope Cruz. She tricks him, he gets knocked out, poison dart thing, and now he's trapped on Teach's ship. So, I should probably get, to my actual thoughts on the movie. Well, something that really bothered me, well, one of the things is that a lot of the acting is just kind of there. I mean, Johnny Depp kind of seems to be phoning it in, and I think this comes from the change in directors. The previous director, Verbinski, I think, I'm probably butchering that, basically, he had a hold on Jack's character, like, brought out the humanistic side, or humanistic, like, emotions and all that stuff, and, also had Jack do his thing. Here, it's like the director, instead of having Johnny Depp act, just said, be Jack Sparrow. So, basically the majority of this is Jack more or less doing going about just by mannerisms, mostly. Like, it doesn't seem like he's got a real emoting stuff behind it. Another thing that bothered me is that a lot of stuff in this movie happens by chance. It's not through any skill of the characters. There's some of that in there too, but there's just stuff that just, like, happens by chance-ish. One less spoilerific example... Wait, no, right. I said no spoilers. One example was, like, in this chase in London, where Jack's trying to outrun the Royal Army or something like that. He's driving this carriage full of coal. Like, he just happens to get a coach full of coal. And, he's riding, and he hits something, and it sparks, and it lights the coal on fire. And then he drives into a tunnel. It knocks off, like, bits of flaming coal are, dropping down into the path of the soldiers on horseback. And the sign, like, saying, ye olde colde, gets knocked off by a low-hanging bridge, and I don't know how this works, but somehow that causes a huge fire in front of the bridge tunnel that sort of drives back the soldiers. Again, you figure that out. Also, there's this part during the climax where they're actually at the Fountain of Youth, and there's this whole thing going around. The Spanish are tearing down the Fountain of Youth, And there are these two really badass crew members of Teats, these like big burly guys with these humongous swords, and a pillar just falls and crushes them. Like, they don't get any climactic battle for someone to be awesome and kill them. They just kind of die. And it's a kind of a letdown. But now let's go to the Spanish. Like, the Spanish are not very well used in this movie. Like, the leader, the guy who's, like, leading the charge, he's cool. Like, he's got an air of charisma about him. But when he actually gets to the Fountain of Youth, he's like, "This place is an aberration against God. We're gonna tear it down." And I'm just like, that's why you were in the movie? Like, that's why you were on this trek? Just so you could find something and destroy it. Now, I don't know when these movies take place. The Inquisition might be going on, but I don't think the Inquisition was that diehard. They're not gonna be like, "Oh, we're gonna waste rations and take a bunch of people out on a, like, 2 to 3 week voyage just to destroy something that may or may not be there." It's so weird. Yeah. But let's talk about Barbossa. You still get kind of a cutthroat vibe from him. And I'm going to address something that probably a lot of you are wondering right now. Why doesn't Barbossa have the pearl? Well, it turns out Blackbeard sort of sunk the pearl. And I say sort of because the thing is, he overtook it, and he didn't sink it, but he trapped it in a bottle. Yeah. I don't... I'd say a wizard did it, but there's no wizards. Like, what happened? Did Blackbeard go to, like, a voodoo master? Oh, yeah. Blackbeard is average. I mean, he's kind of cool. I like the actor they got for him, Ian McShane. I don't know much of his work beforehand, but, and, you know, he's got this sort of, like, dignified presence of the way he talks. But, sadly, the character is very one-dimensional. Like, when he's, gonna shoot someone, and someone eyes him like, "What do you get out of this?" And Blackbeard basically just replies, "Nothing. I'm just a bad man." And I'm just like, you're really gonna go that path with this character? But he's into voodoo. And this is another problem with the film. It does stuff, but it never goes into it. You're just supposed to, you know, take it as it is. When really you're like, no, dude, I want to know how this happened. Like, Blackbeard has some voodoo shit going on. Like, he actually has a voodoo doll of Jack Sparrow. And also, on his crew members, there are a bunch of guys, these really burly guys, who are basically the slave masters of the crew. And they're voodoo zombies. Like, they actually say it. Like, they zombified them. Like, actually legitimately brain damaged them to be more susceptible to, you know, suggestion. Which, by the way, I was so disappointed that Jack or anyone else never took advantage of that. Like, you know, they're more susceptible to suggestion. And there's one part where Jack leads a mutiny against Blackbeard. It goes about as well as you'd expect, as in ass upwards. And never once does it cross his mind to say, "Hey, hello there, just stop and let's think about this." And I guarantee you, those guys would have been brain damaged enough to do it. Like, never did it cross his mind. And I think it should have. That would have been really cool. But among the stuff that's not explained, Blackbeard has a magic sword, like this magical Cloudstrife Zweihander, except not really. It's a cutlass, but it's ginormous. Like, it's about this wide. And this sword controls ships. That's cool. I don't care where you come from. That's cool. Like, basically what he does, he takes out the sword and just directs it, and he can do something like control the ropes and the riggings on the ships, and like when the mutiny's happening, he just takes out his sword and is like, and all the ropes just snare everyone, drag them up into the air. He's like, yeah, this is my ship, bitch. What you gonna do now? I wanted to know where he got that sword. And also, it's not just his ship that it controls, though it does help. That's how he took down the Black Pearl. He just took out the sword. It's just like, ha ha ha, all your shipper belong to me now. Yes, taste the air, suckers. Taste it as you hang from the ceiling. Riggings. You hang from the sky. And, that would have been cool. Also, I'm gonna go back to the mermaids, but when they get this mermaid that Blackbeard captures to find the Fountain of Youth, okay, I'm gonna get into this right now. To find the Fountain of Youth, there's this incredibly complex series of things you've got to do, or find it and use it. First of all, you need a mermaid's tear. Okay. Second, you need... this Spanish guy, he had these 2 silver chalices that you need to not only find the Fountain of Youth, but to drink from it. It's like, they say, it must be a refined silver chalice of such and such and such. And I'm like, okay, who made these rules? Like, that's what I want to... Who made the Fountain of Youth? Like, the Aztec gods or something? Well, it can't be the Aztecs, because we don't know where it takes place. It's in a jungly area, but that could be anywhere from South America to certain parts of Africa to, like, the tropics of Asia. I'm gonna guess it's somewhere in the Atlantic, because, it says, basically, Teach needs to find, or it's his goal to find the Fountain of Youth in 2 weeks, because it's been prophesized that a one-legged man will kill him and all that, and I'm probably giving so much of it away, but whatever. Like, I warned you beforehand, okay? This is spoiler territory. I warned you to turn back. We're 17 and a half minutes in. You had your chance. But yeah, he needs to find it in 14 days, and... I know he's got the sword, which, by the way, also somehow controls the sails and how fast they can propel the ship. It's like, you don't even need wind. It's like, chart a course, like, the winds are weak today. We'll never make it. Fuck that noise. Shink! Onward! I want that sword. Like, somebody get that for me for my Sweet 25 or something. But, okay, the mermaids. Not going to get into them too much. Like, they're kind of portrayed as these almost siren-esque things. Like, basically, it goes by that myth where the mermaids grab sailors and just drag them down to the depths, and I think eat them. Like, they have the, they got the body, the top half of very hot women, the bottom half of very large fish, and the teeth of the lady in Paranormal Activity at the end. But, okay, so, one thing that bothered me, like, that's another thing. There's a lot of stuff that just sort of happens, and it's kind of weird. It's like, okay, they have to lure out the mermaids, and they use their crew as bait. And they say, we have to shine this light on them, because mermaids are attracted to man-made light. And then, when shit goes to hell, Jack Sparrow basically lights a huge fire, and, like, also there are explosive barrels. They use explosive barrels to drive the mermaids to shore, and fire to scare them off when everything goes tits up. Now, disregarding the giant life giver in the sky, isn't fire, like, the quintessential man-made light? I mean, granted, I'll give it to you, if there's fire out on the sea, you done fucked up. Like, that's some... I don't know, I guess someone greenlighted the HMS Hindenburg, but Yeah, so, but you can't tell me that no one set up a bonfire on a rocky cliff and some mermaid was like, "Hey there, buddy," and said, "Ooh, what's that? Hey, there be meals there. Hey there, sailors. Mind if I interest you in something? Grab." So we got that. Oh yeah, stuff that's never explained. Oh, basically, they capture a mermaid for the tier, and this other thing, apparently they need to breathe air. Yeah, aquatic beings need to breathe air. I guess you could argue that, you know, they're like whales or dolphins, which also need to breathe air, but can hold their breath for infinitely longer. So I'm not going to fault it on that. The thing I'm going to question is that when the mermaid kind of gets dropped on dry land, like, out of this whole water prison, she suddenly converts into a human that can walk badly, but still a human. And it's just like, okay, how does that work? I mean, I guess I can't really fault a series that has golden coins that turn you into skeletons in the moonlight and make you more vulnerable against the Keyblade. But still, it's just kind of head-scratching. I mean, like, I guess no one tried this before? Yeah, so, we got that. One of the, one minor gripe, and then I'm gonna get to stuff I liked. There was no, like, you know, title song for the movie. Like, in the first one, it was Yo Ho Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me. The second one was, sort of 16 Men on a Dead Man's Chest. And in, At World's End, it was Hoist the Colors. And there was nothing really like that in this one, except for the song the mermaid sings, but I've already forgotten it, so I don't think it's done its job. And I'm gonna say, I did like the mermaids. Like, they had this very, like, you could believe that they lured sailors to their death. Like, one does have to wonder how they learned to speak English, but that would go into wondering how mermaids were first created. So yeah, now we know why bestiality with dolphins is illegal. That was the worst joke I've ever done, and I hate myself, but, moving on. I did like how the mermaids were done. Even in the water, like, even when you, like, saw their, you know, top halves, they still had this sort of scaly quality that I kind of liked. It's like, yeah, it looks like flesh, but kind of flesh with a scaly film in it. I liked how they did that. And, you know, it goes without saying, but the mermaids were, like, attractive and charismatic. They've got to be. But on the subject of the mermaid, oh boy. There was this sort of subplot where this missionary, sort of, like, this guy that Blackbeard captured, who was, like, a firm believer in Christ. He preached the Lord. You can save your souls if you convert. Wasn't really developed very much, but he had this romantic subplot going along with the mermaid, and it just didn't need to be there. I mean, partially because these guys have known each other, what, like, a week max, and already there's this, like, oh, they fancy each other. Like, maybe. Two, come on. She's a freaking mermaid, and if you saw what they did to your friends out there, or not your friends, to your shipmates out there in the deep at the cove, yeah, you know that's not going to end well. Third, this guy just wasn't an interesting character. He was like a bland Will Turner. And if you already thought that Will Turner was bland, just think on that for a second, because that's reaching a new level of something. I don't know what, but, yeah. Well, and, you know, a lot of this could be forgiven if the characters were interesting. Sad thing is, there weren't a lot of interesting characters. You had Jack, who's, just being Jack. Gibbs came back. It's always fun to see him, but he just seemed to be along for the ride, though he still brings the charm. Barbossa, oh god, Barbossa was great. And, Teach was, Edward Teach, he was one-dimensional. Like the fact that they actually, used his actual ship. Like, maybe not in design, but in name. I'm gonna look it up right now. Penelope Cruz, also, she was okay. But, like, there was none of that, like, there weren't a lot of other characters that really grabbed you. Like, Pintel and Ragetti were a lot of fun in the trilogy, and you also had those two, Royal Guards. But there was nothing like that in here. Like, there wasn't anyone, like... Okay, I'm gonna say it right now. Chemistry between the actors was very lacking. I mean, even between Penelope Cruz and Jack Sparrow, I didn't entirely buy that they had the hots for each other. But, like, not a lot of crew members stood out. Like, there wasn't anyone who you said, oh yeah, la la la, but that guy was awesome. Like, you could say that about the Zombify guys, who one got stabbed through the chest and was just like, eh. But, there wasn't a lot you could really connect with. There was one, like, the two I would say I, could get an impression for was, this sort of baby-faced sailor who, if you've ever seen Snatch, it's Tommy. Turkish's, little, man-boy servant thing. And that was really cool. I'm glad that, that guy found work again. I've never really kept up with him. And the other one was this, cabin boy kiddish who's being worked as hard as the rest of them. And the only reason for that was he was a kid, and he was badass for a kid. There was this one guy, this one sailor who was like, yeah, you don't want to mess with the mermaids. They'll drag you to the deep. And he was okay, but, eh. But, stuff I liked. The fight scenes, I liked them. They were very clever. Some of them were a little miss, but there is some really good ones. The mutiny was great. This bit where Penelope Cruz and Jack Sparrow meet up and are basically dueling a platoon of guards in a wine cellar, that was really cool. Even the stuff in the Fountain of Youth at the end, that was good too. Jack's mannerisms were pretty hit and miss, but when they hit, they hit. Like, there were some pretty funny lines in there. And a lot of them, I think, come from, like, lampshading or drawing attention to a lot of the conventions of stuff. Like, when Penelope Cruz is held captive and, she's about to be left somewhere, she's like, Jack, aren't you going to untie me? He's like, no, you untied yourself, like, a half hour ago and was waiting for the right moment to strike, as a branch is about to come down on his head. And this is one of the rare times where you get to see Barbossa and Jack fighting side to side. Now, I wish the chemistry had been a little better, but you could definitely see, like, the inklings of how they clicked back when they were captain and first mate. On the Black Pearl, which, I'd love to know how Teach gets those ships into those bottles. Yeah. A wizard did it, I guess, but, eh. Anything else? Oh, right, okay. One thing I've got to bring attention to. Okay, the king, or, like, the duke or something, the person who hired Barbossa, that is one of the most annoying characters in the Pirates franchise. I'm so glad he just had one scene, because, oh my god, like, I think it's the uncle, it's Uncle Vernon from the Harry Potter movies, don't quote me on that, but, oh man, like, I don't even know if it's chewing the scenery or chewing on a bunch of ham, but he was like, "You, Jack Sparrow, you're a tyrant! You have signed the name of the crown!" And then he just suddenly became the King of Scots. what do I know? And, I mean, to be fair, you know, given the fact that he was, in my mind, kind of an idiot, it's not hard to see why he let Barbossa have command of a ship. He's just like, oh, yes, oh, you are a hardened criminal, and, oh, what's this, a peg leg? Oh, my, you seem very sketchy. What are your credentials? Well, my boy, I have a way with sea turtles, and I know how to take command of a ship. Oh, yes, do tell. Sea turtles, did you say? Oh, yes. I get the entire menagerie of them, and, sea turtles are tempting, and I have a license to handle an undead monkey. Give him a ship! Yeah, so glad that guy shared one scene. Thankfully, though, that scene was the kickoff point where I, you know, started to have a lot more fun, because we got to see the whole traditional Jack does his, all according to plan, wink wink, thing that he does, where he just sort of trounces around, pantses other people, and basically makes fools of them. And, of course, any fight scene where someone swings on a chandelier, especially when there's a cream puff attached to the chandelier, see the movie, to get it. Like, that's gotta have props. And, what else was there? You know, when they were fighting people, just sounded like a very typical Hollywood moviegoer. Oh, yeah, but the fight scenes were cool. But, you know, even I have to say that. There were some clever fight scenes, and overall, it wasn't bad. It's just not spectacular. Like, there was nothing that wowed me. Like, I'd give it, on a personal scale, a 5.5, maybe 6 out of 10. Like, if you're a Pirates fan, you'll enjoy it. If you are a Pirates fan, but you didn't like the second and third movie, this one might not be up your alley, but, you know, it's worth a shot. And if you're not a fan at all, this isn't going to win you over. And on that note, though, I don't know what I want to happen with this movie. Like, if it does well at the box office, I'm worried that they'll sort of keep this standard. And it really just needs to go up from here. I don't know much about this director. You know, maybe he's experienced, maybe he isn't. But he needs to step up his game. Because, like, there were some parts that were nice. There weren't... also, what's it called? Keith Richards as Jack Sparrow's dad. He shows up again. He gets a one-scene wonder, and it kind of hints on that maybe there's something a little more, or maybe he's, because, like, there's a part where Jack Sparrow's talking to him, he looks away, he looks back, he's gone, so, like, I'm wondering if there isn't something a little mystical about him, or maybe he's just Pirate Batman. But there's one line I did like where, Jack Sparrow's like, do you know where the Fountain of Youth is, my good papa? And Captain Teague's like, do I look at this face, does it look like it's seen the Fountain of Youth? And I'm just sitting there in the audience, I'm thinking, no, but you've got some secret to immortality, Keith. So, yeah, you've got something going on. Maybe it's not the Fountain of Youth, per se, but I don't know, maybe it's the fountain of pickled livers or something. So yeah, that was good. Over and all, you know, I'm not sorry that I saw it. I'm just gonna say it there. As a Pirates of the Caribbean fan, it held up a little bit. Like, it's hard to say where I stand, because, like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, wow, that actually didn't make any sense, or that scene really did take on too long. But I'm leaning, like, if this is the middle line of quality, I'm, like, leaning towards good. Like, it's on the good side of the line, I'd say. It's not spectacular, but it's pretty fun. Like, if I had to go on a spill rating, I'd say a rental or a matinee. Because, like, you don't really gain a lot from seeing it on the big screen, I think. I saw it in 2D, by the way. I know it's in 3D, but it's not going to be good 3D, because, you know, there are lots of scenes where things are dark, and 3D works well in, you know, bright colors. And someday studios are going to pick up on that. But, you know, today is not that day. I think that's pretty much it. That's all I've got to say. This is my first vlog, so I think I did alright for myself. I didn't exactly keep it succinct, but, you know, when you're going for a 2.5-hour movie, which I think a lot of it should have been spent fleshing out the characters, the magic, or doing something apart from exposition. Like, oh yeah, by the way, I just want to say something. Future tip for filmmakers: if something that the series, that a film series has been centered around for a while gets destroyed or disabled or something like that, cough, cough, the battle with the Black Pearl, show us a flashback, please. We want to know how that happened. I mean, okay, you know, you've got to keep the PG-13 rating, and if you show Barbossa cutting off his own leg, which, by the way, he has a peg leg now, and I'm not going to spoil the joke that comes out of that, but, you know, I guess you can't show it, and maybe you had a tighter budget to work on, but, you know, even so, we've spent 3 movies with the Black Pearl. We'd like to see her in her final moments of awesome. Even if it's just an awing, oh my god, Teach is a fucking badass. He just took down the Black Pearl with a rope seduction cutlass. Okay, I probably just gave a lot of kinky people some ideas, but whatever. That's not important. So, you know, if you like the Pirates movies, I say give this a shot. And if you know, it's fun. It has some very fun moments. Some might disagree with me. You can go out drinking if you want, or, you know what, just either way you do it, drink up me hearties, yo-ho! Signing off.